Hello and welcome to this live Q&A. My name is Piotr Węgorowski. I'm a lecturer in Applied Linguistics and I'm the program convener for the MSc in Applied Linguistics. I'll be moderating this discussion. It is meant to be very informal, so welcome everyone. I hope you have plenty of questions that we'll be able to answer. We're here, there's four of us, and I'll let my colleagues and former students introduce themselves. Clara, do you want to start first and say who you are?
Yes, I am Clara Cohen. I am a lecturer in psycholinguistics, and I'm currently the convener of the master's program in English Language and Linguistics. So this is the more general master's program if you haven't quite decided what you want to do with your life. Faith.
Hello, I'm Faith Chu. I'm a lecturer in phonetics, and I'm the program convener for the MSc in Speech, Language, and Sociolinguistics. So it's a slightly more specific course. And now we have our graduate here, Bianca.
Hello, I'm Bianca, and I'm a graduate in Speech, Language, and Sociolinguistics. I took the MSc last year, so just graduated, had a great time, just here to chat about it.
Yeah, great to have everyone here. I hope that, as I said, we'll answer all your questions, and I think it might be useful to start off by just saying a little bit about the programs we all represent. Both Clara and Faith have already alluded to some of the elements of the particular programs, and I wonder whether that might be a good place to start. Clara, you've mentioned that the English Language and Linguistics program is the most general of the three degree programs we have. Do you want to say a bit more about what kind of things students study? Who is the program for?
Yes, so the English Language and Linguistics program is sort of our oldest MSc program. It's been around since before these upstarts joined us. We are the most venerable, and what we really specialize in is featuring the breadth of the topics that are covered in our department. So if you are interested in the history of English and you want to work on manuscripts or medieval epigraphy or something, that's the sort of thing that you could do in English Language and Linguistics. But you could also equally well do something very specialized in discourse analysis or the language of laws or politics, or you could in fact do speech, language, and sociolinguistics if you end up on our MSc in English Language and Linguistics. The only required course is a research training course that you're going to share with all MSc students. And that's going to give you the basics of how to do research at a postgraduate level. So how to work with primary sources, how to structure a very long dissertation project, how to read and engage with primary literature at a deep and advanced level, and to properly understand what's done and what you can synthesize from it and what new questions remain to be asked, which is what you'll be doing for your master's project. So beyond that required research training course, you can take pretty much any course offered to a postgraduate student that interests you. If you take the MSc in English Language and Linguistics, you have freedom.
Great, thanks. I think freedom is a theme really that runs through all the courses. I think there's probably the most freedom on the degree program that Clara has just described, in terms of there being just one core course that runs throughout the whole year. The other two programs that we have also offer you great choice. You still have many options to choose from, but there are some restrictions. I might just say a few words on the Applied Linguistics program, which I convene. So Applied Linguistics, as the name suggests, is looking at language that's applied in different settings. Traditionally, Applied Linguistics has meant language teaching and learning, and we do have a lot of students who have background in teaching and language teaching and learning. For example, they might want to learn a bit more about the topic, and it's something that we do offer. We offer particular specifically designed courses that tackle some of those questions, but we also see applied linguistics as a much wider term. So I'm interested in language in professional settings and institutional settings. I work with different law enforcement agencies trying to understand how language is used there. So this is very much our take on applied linguistics. And apart from the one core course, we also have one bespoke course that's required for all of the applied linguistics students called Applying Linguistics in Social and Professional Life. And this course really tries to make you think what it means for linguistics to be applied in a particular setting and how we can go about this. So in that sense, again, the course offers you quite a lot of choice in terms of what you want to focus on. You might want to choose something that's a bit more teaching related, or you might want to explore other courses as well that look at other areas of language too. So that's applied linguistics. Faith, do you want to say a few words about speech, language, and social linguistics?
Yep. So now we have the MSc in Speech, Language, and Sociolinguistics. It's a very specialized program, but it doesn't mean that you don't have any more option. You don't have any options. It's just slightly more structured compared to, say, the English Language and Linguistics MSc. So what we do on this program is that we allow you to explore the links between producing and processing speech and language as part of everyday social interaction. And what the program does is that it allows you to take a range of courses that will train you up in terms of the key linguistic, technical, as well as research skills required to investigate different aspects of spoken and written language and to carry out your own like linguistic as well as phonetic studies. So within this program, what we have is that there are a couple core courses, one of which is the research training course that Clara and Piotr mentioned as well for both their programs. And in addition, we have a core course called experimental design and data analysis. So what happens there is that you get trained in dealing with quantitative data. In addition to this, there are several core but with option bits that you must complete as part of your program. So you must first do a topic. You must first do a topic as well as a methods course in either phonetics, which is the study of speech sounds, or sociolinguistics, which is studying language in society. Yep. And in addition to that, you get a couple of optional courses. So there is some freedom as well in this very structured program. Bianca is actually one of our SLS graduates. So if you would want to maybe share your experience of the program, it may be great.
Yeah. I think what Faith said, I mean, it's exactly right, unbelievably, which is, yeah, it's definitely the most structured programs, I think, out of all of them. And it's sort of the most specific with the kind of skills that you're developing. But even so, like, I had such a good time picking things that were like just slightly to the side for my like optional courses. So I also got to take some qualitative sociolinguistics courses and an applied linguistics course as well. So it's a great program. It's definitely a little challenging if you're coming from like a sort of arts background and you're not really used to dealing with numbers mostly. But it's such a great program. It's so interesting. You get to build up so many cool skills that like are a little rarer otherwise in this field. And then on top of that, you do get to sort of pick and choose other things that like interest you, but maybe you wouldn't like quite get to do with a even more strictly structured quantitative research program. So it's really great. I had a great time.
Great, thanks. I can see a question there in the chat, which is a fantastic question as well. What kind of jobs do graduates get? What have students gained that will help them in the future? I'm thinking about particularly about jobs outside academia. So that's a really good question. Again, Bianca, I might put you on the spot there. I just wonder whether you would like to reflect on the skills you've learned in your program and how you think those skills have helped you in trying to think about your career in your future.
Yeah, I will say I am technically not the perfect person to answer this because I am actually still in academia and I am kind of trying to stick around for as long as I can. But even so, I've noticed that like, especially with, I mean, I can't quite speak for the other programs, but especially with sort of speech language and sociolinguistics, you do definitely develop a lot of skills that can be applied in so many fields. Like because of, well, I took data analysis in my undergrad actually, and then I took a different course to sort of help with that later during my master's. And like because of that, I got to put on like a volunteering application that had data visualization skills, and that was incredible because most people, if you're like, oh yeah, I do English language, they would never guess that that's something you'd learn. So you definitely learn a lot of things that again can like go in so many fields. I know like some of my classmates have gone into like very different things. A few of them have just like taken up office jobs and are having a great time with it. Some people have gone into the more sort of teaching English aspect. I'm kind of looking into that for the future as well. So there is definitely a lot of different things that you can pick. It's a little difficult for me to explain like specific careers because again, I am sort of very academic oriented, but there are a lot of skills that definitely go into a lot of fields, and I know a lot of people who have just like graduated a master's and went, yeah, no, I'm just gonna use those things to do something else entirely.
Yeah, I wanted to add to the fact that because we do train you up in your quantitative skills in the MSc in speech language and sociolinguistics, when you think about up and coming industries or like jobs such as like data science or like, I have colleagues working as data scientists, like you do get transferable skills because of the statistics training that you take, which is compulsory as part of the MSc SLS program. Yeah.
That's a good point, and I think there's a lot of skills. There are some technical skills that you can gain on the program, particularly if you are taking speech language and social linguistics degree, but also as part of your optional courses as well. But even with some of the more qualitative courses, I think there are still some really important skills that you learn that you can then apply. I know of some of the past graduates who, for example, have gone on to marketing because they understand how language works, and they actually really enjoy this, and this is something that they can definitely apply in their daily working life because it's knowledge that they have gained throughout the degree. Bianca, you've also mentioned teaching. This is also a very popular option for quite a number of graduates. As I said, we also have some students who already have a lot of teaching experience. So that's always quite helpful for them to come and consolidate, or if not, it's something that they can learn and then apply later on as well. I think these are some of the good examples of the type of jobs people get. Yeah. I can see another question there, which is great. Keep them coming. Helps us. When do I have to choose my optional courses? What help is there with choosing an optional course? So this is an excellent question. I think we talk about the various amazing things you can do. So I can imagine you being very keen and anxious to try and choose your courses now and really, really secure your choices and options at this stage. A bit of patience. I think in terms of the master's program, it's all quite intense in general. It only takes a year, so you only start in September. And we have quite a few people joining up until quite late on. So the official enrollment doesn't start until typically August. I can't give you specific data at the moment, but around that time, you will be sent information on how to enroll and register. And at this point, in theory, you can just pick your courses, but you ask another excellent question there. What help is there? Because otherwise, if you just given information, here are some courses, pick something, it can be a bit daunting and a bit difficult, which is why we do offer some information in advance. We normally provide that, well, ideally prior to arrival as well, but you also offer an induction in the first or before the first week of term, where you're explained on how the programs work, what kind of courses we have, what's involved. There are some restrictions, as we've heard, on some of the programs, and that you must choose specific courses for your program. So you will have a chance to speak to a convener and really discuss your options. So you won't be left to your own devices. You'll definitely have help. It's something that we take quite seriously, and we want to make sure that you really succeed in your journey and something that works for you. So I think this is the key thing to say. Is there anything else to add, Clara? Yeah.
So during this induction that Piotr mentioned, when you hear more about the options courses that you can choose, this is actually an opportunity for the conveners to pitch their courses to you and explain why they're so cool and why you should take my course and not that other course over there. So if you don't need to feel rushed because maybe you want to wait and let us sell our courses to you.
Yes, and I think, Bianca, you also mentioned something really interesting. So even though you said you were doing the speech language and social linguistics masters, you also chose courses that were kind of traditionally associated with other degree programs, applied linguistics courses. Do you want to say a bit more about the kind of courses you did and how you decided what to do?
Yeah, actually, so the thing that I think that was really great and really interesting was that there were things that were maybe not quite focusing on the methods that I was planning to use in my research, but still covered similar themes. So what I did was actually I sort of emailed a few lecturers and a few course conveners and was like, hi, I have this project in mind and I just kind of want to build up a little more knowledge around it. Do you think your course would be suitable for this? And I just kind of summarized what I'd been working on and what I was thinking about. And everyone was so helpful. I generally even had a lecturer being like, yeah, actually, I think this other course might suit you better. So they were very kind to not just be like, yes, you should take my course. So again, you get so many great opportunities to ask for help. Everyone's always so nice to answer your questions. And yeah, there's a very wide variety of courses, and so it's very nice to sometimes get to approach a similar topic from like a different sort of methods perspective, which is always really cool.
Yeah, great, thanks. It's good to hear. Good to hear that we come across as nice and approachable, because we definitely are. So that's always good. And I think, Bianca, as you said, you can always get in touch with relevant conveners and ask questions. I think we're more than happy to answer them. That's always key. I think it's really important to remember this. And I think it is important to think of your masters as the time for yourself. It's one of those opportunities in life when you just have a year to do the things that interest you and you have fun with it. So obviously you might have your own interest and you might have a clear idea of what you want to do, but I think it's also good to try and maybe step out of the comfort zone and do something that is just out there that you didn't even know existed. As Clara was saying in that induction where everyone pitches the courses and tries to say, this is what we do on the course. As a member of staff, sometimes think, oh, I'd like to do this. This sounds really interesting, and I'd like to learn this. Yeah, I can see the nods. I think this is a universal feeling. So it's always good.
When I first arrived at Glasgow, actually, I sat in on a colleague's class, just beginning to end throughout the entire semester, because it was like, let's look at a bunch of manuscripts, and I thought that sounds amazing, and it was.
Well,
that was back when I had time to do that.
Yes. And as a student, you probably will have a lot of freedom to try and explore, which is great. We always encourage students to do this. Brilliant. Oh, there's a great question as well from Vittoria. Do international students usually have a harder time since we are going to learn linguistics in our second language? Oh, that's a good question.
I bet it's the reverse, actually. In my experience, international students already have the experience of thinking about a language and acquiring a language very systematically, because learning a foreign language requires you to think about things like what is a subject, what is an object, what is grammar. So international students actually have stronger foundations in linguistics than a typical monolingual speaker would, simply because a monolingual has never had to think about the structure of language in the way that a second language speaker has. So I think, to the extent that it's harder because you're learning in a second language. It's not harder because you're learning linguistics in a second language.
Yeah, Bianca, do you want to?
If I can intervene as an international student in linguistics, what I would say is that Clara is very much right about the fact that you will definitely actually have a little bit of an advantage when it comes to like thinking about how language works, because yeah, if you've had to learn a second language at some point, or even if you are like a native bilingual, you probably literally just done more thinking about the way language works structurally. So that's going to help you a lot. There are a few things that I personally found a little bit more challenging, especially in the context of speech language and sociolinguistics. For example, I famously struggle with phonetics because I like struggle a little bit more to like tell apart the differences between like small sounds that maybe are not very different in my native language. I'm Italian originally. It's been a while. Like I did my undergrad here, and like I struggled a little bit in phonetics in my undergrad, and then I got to sort of tackle it again during my master's, and that was actually great, because the thing was like I was so worried, and I knew I was at a little bit of a disadvantage, but the thing that was really nice about doing it as a master's was that, again, I had so much more freedom, and I felt so much more confident to just like go up to people, tutors, classmates, lecturers, and just be like, hi, I am really struggling with this thing. And everyone is always, again, very, very welcoming to sort of try and lend a hand. The former like phonetics PhDs have had to listen to me complain so many times, and everyone's always, again, really nice and really happy to help. So even when there are things that might be a little bit more of a struggle, for example, phonetics in my case, in general, I always find that in this department there is like a very good support system to sort of help you cope with that.
Yeah,
I wanted to add that so for phonetics, which I teach, which covers the study of speech sounds, we actually check like where the students are from, and we do choose some examples that will cater to the first language that you speak as well. Or we'll discuss like, what are some problems or difficulties that you get when you're trying to listen to English because of certain consonants or vowels that you don't have. And I think throughout not just like the phonetics course, but many other courses, you do get to pick like essay topics or like even dissertation topics focusing on like studying the sounds or the structure of your own language. So it's not that much of a problem in terms of like choosing something that could be catered to your own interest or your first language, I would say, yeah.
And I think that's a wider point in general. It's not just phonetics. I think we often make sure that we try and incorporate students' own interest and background in our own teaching in classes. I know I do it myself. I teach a course on multilingualism in society. And I start off the class by asking people, where they're from, what kind of languages they speak, do they consider themselves to be multilingual? It always brings up really interesting questions and really interesting discussions. Similarly, I know a colleague of mine who teaches a course on language learning variables. This is a space for students to reflect on their language learning journey, trying to think of, why did they learn a language in the first place? What helped them? What was difficult? So in a sense, it can help sometimes as well, and in terms of trying to reflect on your own experiences, as we've been saying. So it's definitely something that's worth thinking about. Yeah, Clara.
I might also add that speaking another language actually can give you a real advantage when it comes time to choose your dissertation topic. And this is because the teaching that you're going to cover in a lot of your classes focuses largely on English, because that's the common language that we can be confident that everyone speaks. And we are the Department of English Language and Linguistics. There is an English focus here. And so if you want to use English as the language of study for your dissertation topic, it can be very hard to think of like a novel question. But if you speak other languages, then often it's really interesting to say, well, here's a thing that's been shown in English, but English is structurally different from other languages in the following interesting ways. So does this thing that works in English work the same way in other languages? And then boom, you have a dissertation topic. So I have one student who's looking at a well-established phenomenon in English, and she's like, but Marathi doesn't work that way. So what happens when we look at Marathi speakers? And I have another student who came up with 3 different dissertation topics, and all of them relate to this thing works in English, but what about Farsi? So it's thinking very far ahead, but when the time comes next spring to choose a dissertation topic, you might find that you're having an easier time than some of your native English-speaking classmates who have less experience in other languages.
Yeah, and I guess that might be a nice place to segue to talking a little bit about the dissertation, actually, I think, which is great, because so far we've been talking about all the choice that you'll have as a student to really tailor your curriculum, trying to pick the courses that work for you, that you find interesting, that make sense in the context of what you want to do, or maybe what you want to discover a little bit. But as Clara was saying, there is this component of just you doing the thing you really want to do and you really want to focus on and choosing a dissertation topic. It's a big task, a little bit daunting at the beginning, I think. I think some students are really stressed about this, but actually it's a great achievement once you get this. If it was easy, everyone would be just doing it, no problem. It's meant to be challenging, but I think the challenge there really pays off. I wonder, Bianca, do you want to reflect on your experience of doing your dissertation project? How did you choose your topic? How did you find the process? Do you want to say a few words about this?
Yeah, so again, I feel like I was at a little bit of an advantage by virtue of having done an undergraduate degree here and an undergraduate dissertation in linguistics, where I sort of like already knew kind of who I wanted to work with and what kind of topics I was interested in. So that sort of helped me, and that also influenced me picking SLS specifically rather than another program. But at least for me, I basically sort of spent the entire, I remember, first semester just like kind of leaving classes and then just like ruminating on what I learned and being like, and if I wanted to expand on this, what would I do? And then I think it was like maybe very early into second semester where I think I went to Clara's office and was like, help, research idea. And then by the end of the second semester, when you need to start properly writing up a proposal and get matched up with the supervisor and everything, I was at a little bit of an advantage because I kind of already figured out more or less what I wanted to do. But then we also like got to basically have this very cool session with, I think, every available dissertation supervisors, where we sort of got to chat with every single one that we thought we might want to work with and kind of pitch our projects to them, which I thought was really helpful because I had like one project in my mind that was very clear, and I thought I might want to do that. And then I had like a couple of ideas for completely different areas actually, and I wasn't quite sure if those were like actually feasible projects or anything. And so I got to just go and sort of speak to potential supervisors and be like, I have this idea. Is this anything? And then they sort of got to guide me and be like, yep, you should totally consider this further, or just going, no, take a step back. To be fair, no one shot me down like that. Everyone was always, again, very nice and was like, yeah, you should definitely think about expanding it maybe in this direction or something like that. And so I think by the time we actually have to put in our sort of like very small dissertation ideas so that we could get matched out with a supervisor, I had like 2 different ideas in very different fields. Just one was in psycholinguistics, which is what I ended up doing. And then another one was in qualitative sociolinguistics. So pretty different things. And I just kind of, and those were just both ideas that I kind of had like after going to class and thinking about things that I learned and what I was really curious about. So it's definitely something that's like, I think because classes are generally quite stimulating and engaging, you will just kind of come up with stuff that you want to investigate as you are sitting in classes. And then again, you just get all these chances to talk about it with lecturers and potential supervisors. And so by the time you do actually get matched up with a supervisor, you probably like figured out exactly what you want to do. So yeah, that's what it was like for me. I think it's a similar experience for other people. I don't know if everyone else goes so like, I have this idea and this is what I want to work on, but yeah, you definitely get plenty of time to like come up with ideas.
And sometimes the classes are designed to help you think up ideas. So I teach a psycholinguistics class, and the final assignment for the psycholinguistics class is a first semester class. And the final assignment is come up with a project proposal. You don't have to do it, but you have to review some research and specify the research question and explain what your methods would be and predict what your results might look like based on the models of psycholinguistics that you've been studying. And this has resulted in multiple dissertations. I give feedback on the projects and I say to a student, this would be a great dissertation topic. And they come back and they're like, okay, yeah, I want to do that. And in fact, I currently have a PhD student who liked her psycholinguistics project so much, she did an MSc dissertation on it and then liked the MSc dissertation so much. She was like, I want more. Now I'm doing a PhD. So, there's fruitful ground.
Yeah, likewise on the MSc Speech, Language and Sociolinguistics, we do have what we call methods courses in the second semester, where you do gain research skills and run like mini versions almost of your dissertation. So we give you all the skills and training you need to kind of run a tiny version of what you'll pursue in summer. Then by the time you think about your dissertation topic, you already have tried and like got a taste of what you would be measuring, for example, if you're studying speech sounds. So yeah, in that case, I think that's pretty good, like dissertation idea prep as well.
Yeah, I think students often worry when they start thinking, what will I do? How will they decide? And I think the problem they often face later on, thinking, which idea should I focus on? Because I have so many. And I think that this is very true. And I think that's true of anyone. I was in a shop the other day and I saw a sign that just was really interesting. I'm thinking, what's going on there? Why would you say this? So yeah.
What did it say?
It was about surveillance. So it said, we trust our customers, but we record you anyway, or something along those lines. And I thought, very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So yeah, but dissertations, that's definitely something that you'll get support with. It's not, you won't be left to on your own trying to work it all out. It is an independent project, but that also means you get help. It's not just that you do everything from scratch. And as everyone has been saying, you do get a bit of help throughout the program as well, as you learn things on the courses and you're trying to think about how you can apply some of the skills or methods that you've learned into project of its own standing. Good.
Shall we talk about some of the dissertation topics that students have come up with?
Oh, that's a good idea. Idea.
Bianca, what did you do?
Yes. Hi. I'm so sad I don't have the little blorb with me.
I do. Hang on.
Oh, yes. But yeah, so what happened was I took Well, actually, I took multiple. Yeah, that's it. I took that qualitative sociolinguistics course and a course on language learning variables that actually got mentioned earlier. And both of them got me thinking about the way identity affects speaking. And affects like your ability to learn languages. And so I started from that, and we'd approached it from a very qualitative standpoint in those classes. And I was in SLS, so I was kind of I think I was kind of expected to do a quantitative project, which is good because it's what I wanted to focus on. And so I just kind of started thinking, okay, how would I research this from a quantitative standpoint rather than doing qualitative research? And so eventually I came up with a project regarding like using they as a gender pronoun and whether your identity affects your ability to learn using they as a gender neutral pronoun, essentially. That's because it's a topic that's like very important to me. And then we got to come up with like within an artificial language learning task. And so basically we got to come up with a fake language and taught it to participants. It was called Blorpies, and it was spoken by Blorps, which you can hopefully see on Clara's screen. And they're little aliens, and they have 3 genders essentially. And so one of them, basically they have like a female male gender, and then one that's sort of more neutral, more vague, and doesn't quite fall into our definition of it. And so basically I got to sort of teach participants about Blorp culture and also language. And then we did a very cool eye tracking experiment where they had to listen to recordings in Blorpese, the language of Blorps, and then pick out a Blorp on the screen. It was great. We're actually working on expanding it now, hopefully. So that was what I worked on. I definitely knew I wanted to like work on psycholinguistics when I came into the course, and so I kind of like spent a lot of the first semester going, okay, how do I turn this into a psycholinguistics project? And that's what we came up with.
Piotr, what have some of your students done?
Yeah, there's been quite a range of different topics, I think, from someone looking at how people who have aphasia, so that's the inability to speak, as well, mostly as a result of spoke, learn how to talk again. And it was really looking at how the therapists were trying to help them talk and kind of how they really encouraged them to develop expertise. I think that was the main point of the dissertation. So it was really, I mean, you can look at it from a more speech perspective and really think about the kind of how you learn those sounds. But I think it was mostly looking at the identity, really trying to understand what it is that encourages people to talk and what kind of prompts are quite successful. So that was a nice example that's just stuck in my mind, and I really enjoyed that piece of work. Faith, do you have any dissertations that you've remember reading or supervising?
I think typically a lot of phonetics dissertations would focus on people learning sounds in, say, for example, a second language. So last year we had a student from Vietnam looking at Vietnamese learners of English. And so for people from Vietnam, they don't really have the difference between, say, sheep and ship, for example. So how do they learn to produce a different vowels in English? And like, is it because they can't hear the difference? Is it because they just can't say the difference, but they can hear it? So we'll help you kind of design experiments to test which is true, or how long it takes for you to, say, master the contrast or the difference between, say, ship and sheep, for example. And typically, I think every year we do have a lot of students coming through looking at similar topics. So if you're from, say, China or like Saudi or somewhere else, it could be the case where you have different second language learners coming from different first language backgrounds. And it's quite easy for us to help cater your projects to look at English learning, say, depending on your different language backgrounds. Yeah. So that's quite popular in general.
Yeah, there's actually no limits in terms of what you can choose. So we don't impose any kind of restrictions of you can't work on this topic for whatever reason. You can,
Well, we
as long
do.
as
There are
doable, well, yes,
some constraints. If you want to
yes,
work with vulnerable
that's true.
populations,
That's true. Yes, that's true.
it's not impossible,
No,
but you've got to be thinking about it very early because you would need to apply for a separate ethical approval that's not covered under our
that's
blanket
right.
approval for
Yes,
these projects. So it's not impossible, but
no,
it's not recommended as if you're
no.
on the typical timeline.
As long as things are doable though, and kind of work
Yeah,
from
yeah,
a
yeah.
research perspective, we don't. you can choose your own topic.
Mhm.
Good. I can see a question there in the chat again, which let me just have a look. So it says, what about the degree syllabus? This is an interesting question because I wonder what you specifically mean by this. I think,
I imagine it has to do with like number of hours, contact hours, the
yeah,
assessment details of the courses.
that's right. Because as we've mentioned, there's a little bit of, well, there's a lot of freedom in terms of what your specific curriculum will look like based on the courses you choose. So in total, I think it might be useful just to give you the summary then figure. There are two components of each of the programs. So you'll do 120 credits of the taught component, so that's your courses, that the specific courses you'll choose, or some of them will be mandated by a specific program, and then the 60 credit worth of dissertation, which is your own independent work that happens mostly through the summer. So that means then that there are the 120 credits of the taught components equates to 6 courses. So each course is normally 20 credits. The research training course is split into 2, but it adds up to 20. And for each course, I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it might seem like there isn't much work because the contact time can kind of be a bit, well, not limited.
It's about 2 hours a week.
It's about 2 hours per week, yeah. So
or maybe some weeks there are 3. It depends on the course. So
that's
my
right.
psycholinguistics course is 2 hours a week every week, and then a few weeks have extra. And also from experimental design and data analysis, there's like 24 contact hours. So 2 hours a week and then 4 weeks of extra hours as well.
Yeah, so you're looking at 2 hours, roughly 2, maybe 3 hours for each course.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what, 6 to 8, 9 hours per week, perhaps, of the actual contact time you have with your lecturers and your peers. But obviously, not all the learning takes place in the classroom. We expect you to do a bit more work on your own as well, and it can be quite intense. I think when you first start, you think, "Oh, it's all easy," Even if you've done linguistics before. I remember starting my master's, that was a while ago now, and thinking, "Oh my God, I know nothing." That's
normal.
It is normal. It is absolutely normal. It's a steep learning curve, and people get a bit frightened perhaps in the first few weeks, thinking, "Oh my God, there is so much to read and there's so much to learn." But you'll get there. We're here to help you, and we're here to guide your studies. Yeah.
If you're looking at, say, specific program structures, you'll have to go to each of the MSc degree websites to look for that. And within the website, you'll get specific links to get to, like, say, a course and what exactly is covered within the course and the type of assessment that is course specific. So it depends on the courses you choose to make up the program that you're taking. And it could be one of the 3 programs that we represent here. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is all on the website. There are course specifications that tell you exactly what you need to do for the assessment and when, what percent each thing is due and so on, what percent each thing is worth and so on.
Yeah, and I wonder whether that might be a good place then to talk about some of the assessments that we do offer on our courses, because again, there's a wide range of different methods of assessment and different things students do. So, you might think of university work as just doing essays if you come from a particular background, or it might be exams. We typically don't tend to do exams at postgraduate level. It's mostly written work. Yeah, Clara, do you want to say a bit about the kind of assessment you offer in your own courses, maybe?
So the courses that I teach actually usually fall into speech, language, and sociolinguistics. So in my psycholinguistics course, I have 3 reading responses that teach you specific skills about how to interact with primary research articles. So in one of them, you have to read an article and then propose a follow-up experiment. In another one, you have to read an article and discuss the methodology. And in a third one, you have to read 2 articles and then compare and contrast them to each other. And these are all skills that you're going to need in order to read literature, synthesize it, develop a research question, and develop a methodology to test that research question, which is then this broader proposal that is the final assessment. So there are these 4 pieces of assessment that all build in on each other. And then in the experimental design and data analysis class that I teach, there are 2 technical exercises, one on data visualization and one on statistical analysis, where you're given some data and asked to explore it and visualize the patterns and analyze them and develop it, do an inferential statistical analysis and draw some conclusions about what patterns in the data are present. And then the final project is, again, a sample data analysis, it's like a mini dissertation, except instead of developing the project the way you do in psycholinguistics, this time I'm like, okay, here's some data. It can be perfectly fake data. Your job is now to specify your research questions, use this fake data to do an analysis that would answer those research questions, and then interpret the results of your analysis in the context of your research questions. So together, those 2 courses are like putting together all of the pieces that you'll need for a dissertation.
Yeah, so we also have other courses, which would mean that you have to get used to or learn how to use computer software. So for phonetics, for example, there are pieces of assessment where you have to basically master a program that's used for analyzing sound. So you learn what a sound would actually look like when it's plotted, and how to chop it up so that you get access to specific pieces, and what makes a sound that sounds like an R rather than an E and stuff like that. And from my understanding, there are also other courses like maybe corpus linguistics, where there is specialist software that you'll be trained to use as well. So it isn't just essay writing, but if you enjoy essay writing, there are also tons of courses that will offer you all the opportunities you need for essay writing. Yep. So Piotr, what about your courses?
Yeah, good. I like the kind of very technical details that you've both offered. And I was thinking I don't do anything like this, but then I do actually. I realized I asked on one of my courses, I asked students to do a transcription exercise, which I guess is not a phonetic transcription, but more of a kind of interactional transcription. And they asked them to analyze the short transcript that they've done according to some of the frameworks that we've looked at in class. So that's again, it's asking you to apply some of the specific skills that you've learned in class into the type of data that you chose. So that's a very good example. I know some of the colleagues as well offer other forms of writing. So I think
portfolios,
portfolios as well. Yes, blogs, for example. So so it's not just traditional essay, but you're encouraged to think about different audiences. How do you write for an educated audience that doesn't necessarily have background in linguistics? It's not an academic piece of work. And I do similar.
We should mention the English for Academic Writing resource that we offer, because I know that we have international students who are watching who are a little concerned about English. So I think that's your baby, Piotr.
Yes, well, that's a very good point and very well remembered. It always comes to me at the beginning of the semester when we kind of try and remind people that it's there. So yes, that's a good reminder there. We have a bespoke course that has been developed. You say my baby. To be quite honest, it's actually we've asked colleagues in English for Academic Purposes department, I think that's what they're called, to develop a bespoke courses for our students, and it is called English for Academic Study. I think that's what it's called for Applied Linguistics, although it's open to students on other programs as well. And it's a 10-credit course which you can take on top of all the other courses. It is really designed specifically to help you develop your academic writing skills. And I know that the students who have taken the course have really valued this, because they thought it's something that doesn't teach them just how to write, because I think there is a bit of misconception perhaps that if my English isn't good enough, I need to take that course. It's not necessarily the aim. The aim is really to try and learn argumentation and learn some of the writing skills that are applicable to many academic genres, and it's something that students have found very, very helpful. It runs throughout the whole semester one, I believe, if I'm right, off the top of my head. I think it does. And as I say, it's normally quite a small cohort as well of students, so not everyone does this course, but for students who do, they've always valued this. Firstly, practical skill, and the fact that you are learning some of the writing skills that are so important. And because the course has been designed specifically for our discipline, you'll be reading the kind of articles you're reading in other courses anyway. So you'll be able to relate to the course content a bit more. And I think it's also nice because it brings together a small group of people who just kind of there because they want to learn a bit more and they want to improve their writing, which is quite nice. Good. Just looking if there are any more questions. Keep them coming. If you have anything else to to ask, we've covered quite a lot. Let me look. I think we've covered quite a lot of ground. I think. I wonder whether there is anything else that people want to mention at this point. Anything else that would be?
Well, we should talk about student life.
Student life, yes, very good.
So there are a number of opportunities for students to become engaged in the life of the department outside of just the coursework and their own dissertation projects. So I'm, in addition to being the convener of the English Language and Linguistics MSc, I'm also the co-director of the Glasgow University Laboratory of Phonetics, or GULP as we call it. And so GULP is a very active research and teaching lab. A lot of the phonetics courses are taught in GULP. But also students work there. We have weekly lab meetings in which we have invited speakers, or we have students who present some of their ongoing research, or we have sort of peer review sessions if there's a conference coming up and people want to submit some work, or if there's a conference coming up and people want to practice a presentation. So it's a very supportive community. Bianca mentioned that she found that the PhD students were very helpful when she was struggling with phonetics. This was part of the GULP community. You kind of go there and look forlorn and someone will take you by the hand and say, what can I do for you? So that's, and then Faith, you run the research seminar series.
Yeah, we have about 3 to about 6 research seminars every semester. So what happens is that we usually invite external speakers to come give a talk on their research, and we've had all sorts of different topics from, say, medieval poetry to, say, psycholinguistics. So there's a really wide range, and it's really nice because you just get someone that's outside your department telling you about, like, the newest research they're doing, and there could be things that they've recently published or things that they've tried and failed. So it's always fun, and it's like, something that's lovely to have like late afternoon, and usually we go out for drinks after, or, you get the chance to dine with the speaker as well. So that's pretty nice. So it offers you an extension of what you get with it within your degree program. Yep.
I note that we have a question about publishing. Is it mandatory for MSc students to publish an article before they graduate? Has that ever happened?
Very impressive. I mean, if you manage.
I mean, if that happens, that's impressive, but I have never had an MSc student publish an article. I have had students submit their MSc projects for publication. That's happened, but that happens,
after.
I would also like to say that I am touched by the thought that someone thinks academic publishing works that fast.
Yes,
I can promise that they let me graduate. I didn't publish an article in my 12 months, 10 months. Anyway, during my master's, and they let me graduate. I wasn't. Yeah. They were like, no, actually, you can't have this.
It's typically like 6 months to a year between submission to publication. So I think if that were a requirement, we would have we wouldn't have many MSc graduates. Yeah. So no, I'm sorry. It might feel like I'm making fun of the question. I shouldn't be. I'm sorry. It's a reasonable thing to be concerned about, because we do hear a lot about students, rock star students publishing. We do not require that of our students. It's not an expectation. I often do write on dissertations. If you want to work this up for publication, this is publication worthy, because we have great students who write great dissertations.
But at the core, I think all the degree programs are taught degree programs. So I think that's why there's no expectation of you to do, any more than that, than is really necessary, particularly given the timescales that might make it impossible. So I think, I think that's a good point. Yeah. Bianca as well, I think, because we've mentioned 2 things that are happening. Clara mentioned GULP, Faith mentioned the seminars. And correct me if I'm wrong, but have been involved in student life in other ways as well, including the society. Is that right?
Yes, hi. I was waiting to bring that up. Yeah, so there is also on the, let's say, slightly less academic area of student life. There is also Glasgow University Linguistics Society, I think it's called LINGSOC. We call it LINGSOC, and they sort of take care of doing just like more relaxed socials for students, so that they can, for students in linguistics or also students from outside linguistics that might be interested, to just sort of hang out. So they usually have, I was in the committee for it last year, I'm not this year, so I'm not 100% sure what they're doing right now, but generally they do fairly regular like coffee meetups, just so that you can kind of get to know other students in the programs. And then they have a few bigger events during the year. Last year, we took a trip to the Ruffalo Cross for all the sort of historical linguistics fans. It was a great time, actually. And they also did a Ceilidh, just to sort of celebrate the end of the year. There was like a quiz, I think, for Bernstein.
Bianca, what's a Ceilidh?
Oh my God! A Ceilidh is a traditional Scottish dance. Yeah, it's a great time. There is usually a band that will play mostly like traditional Scottish songs, and the band will tell you how to like dance to each song. You don't have to just know what to do. It's a great time. I'm not like a massive fan of dances. I love a good Ceilidh because they're just such fun songs to dance to. But yeah, so that's LinkSoc basically. They sort of try to help keep the sort of social life for linguistic students a little more alive and sort of easier to get in touch with other students.
Yeah, and I guess as well, because obviously we're so excited about work and linguistics, we often kind of tend to forget when we do this kind of events that there is so much else going on, because we kind of take it for granted in general, whether it is LinkSoc or even just the city itself. I think it's fair to say none of us is from Glasgow, but it is a great place to be. I mean, there is just so much going on. Whether you are into concerts, I'm not really. I'm more of a kind of nature kind of person. So I'd love to go for a hike whenever I can, and it's just on your doorstep. So that's really good as well. You can always take a break from your studies and do something else. I mean, that really interests you. So it's not just about studying, even though it's a big part of your degree, obviously. We also recognize that there are other things you might want to do with your time, and there's plenty of opportunities to get involved with LinkSoc or just do stuff on your own and try and explore, a lot of cultural venues as well across the city or beyond. We are wrapping up slowly, so I wonder whether if people had any final questions. I can't see any more, but I think that's been going quite great. Yeah, I think we might be coming to an end. Just before we do, Bianca, I might just take it back to you. I think if you had one piece of advice, someone starting a master's, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's sort of it's definitely what I've been getting at the entire session, which is do not be afraid of asking for help. A master's can be a great, really exciting experience. It can also be very challenging. I definitely had like a few problems during my master's, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. Like, I know it sounds like they have me tied up here and they've told me to say to everyone that this is a great course, but I'm being completely serious when I say that, like, I have experienced the linguistics department at Glasgow Uni, and also I took theatre studies as a joint degree in my undergrad, and I'm now in English Lit. And linguistics is absolutely my favorite department that I work with. So absolutely do not be afraid of asking for help, because people will genuinely try to help you. It can feel sometimes very lonely and stressful to do a master's. So just go talk to your supervisor or your college convener and be honest and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. And they will probably set you right. So don't be afraid of asking for help, and also believe in yourself. You can do it. Genuinely, I promise. It's a great time, and you'll probably have very good memories of it.
Brilliant. That's a good message to end on, I think. Thanks so much. Yeah, and I think I could only echo Bianca's word. Yeah, we're here to help and just have fun. I think we're all looking forward to see you in September when the year starts. If there are any questions in the meantime, I mean, we have addressed quite a few, so it was good to see you come up with questions. But if there's anything in the meantime before you come here, please do not hesitate to get in touch. You can always email us. We're more than happy to answer any questions by email. but I think that might be everything from us at this stage. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.